Thank you very much for staying tuned. If you're just joining us, it's Daybreak on Trust Television. It's a discussion segment, and this morning we would be spraying our tentacles around the petroleum sector. We will be examining, petrol price stability, and we'll be looking at the volatility and the recent announcement by the Dangote refinery of a further reduction in price. The petroleum refinery has reduced ex-depot price of petrol from 890 to 825 naira per litre, following a 60 naira reduction in February 1. The move aims to provide relief to Nigerians, especially during the Ramadan, the refinery noted, and support President Tinubu's economic recovery plan. With this latest reduction, the ex-depot price has dropped by 125 naira per litre since February. Pump prices in Lagos are expected to fall to 860 to around 865 naira per litre. We have other sundry issues as it borders on notices that were served by stakeholders in the industry to commence strike, or to protest the non-payment of over 100 billion naira bridging claims that have been there at the outset before the full implementation of the Petroleum Industry Act, which has seen some of our agencies take on new forms and shape. And to help us understand some of this development, we now have joining us in the studio a friend and brother and a major player in the industry, Dr. Billy Gillis-Harry, who is the national president of PETROAN. It's a pleasure to always have you join us this morning.
Thank you so much. Good morning.
Good morning. Every time you see Mr. Gillis, he's calm and well refreshed. You don't think that the inflation in the country has any kind of impact on you or on your sector. So many developments within 1 week. Let us start with the first one. The notice served by stakeholders in the industry over what has refused to go away, the bridging claim that has been unsettled. We know there have been all kinds of conversation around what the government can do and how it needs to go about settling some of these claims. Can you give us the update of what the conversation is as of today? Because there were press releases issued around conversations happening between you and the minister and relevant agencies within the petroleum sector. Can you bring us up to speed with what these developments have been and what we should expect in the coming days?
Yeah, first, I want to thank you for observing that I'm always calm. The reason why I'm calm is because I have confidence in the hope that God has given and the hard work that every human being can be able to put in to make life better. And regardless of how the situation gets difficult, no solution will come out if you are not calm, if you are not strategic, if you are not focused on exactly solving the problem, not exaggerating the issues or giving the trouble more life. So that's the secret of why you always see me.
Dr. Konjala will say panic is not a strategy.
No, it's not. It's actually a distraction and a disabler. All right. So thank you so very much. Yes. Petroleum Product Retail Outlet Owners Association, as you know, we are the last mile in the industry, and we are affected by any slight changes, whether it's from the refiners, or from the marketers, or from the tanker drivers or the depot owners. They affect us very, very quickly. And we do know that some of our members are also very much affected by this money that's owed, to bridges, and it has taken quite a long time that these debts are piled up, and of course, it has affected quite a lot of people. We do sympathize with our sister organization, and we understand their pain. We feel it, and that's why our approach was to intervene, was to plead for downing of tools, not to be the option. That's why we pleaded that the authorities should wade into the matter and actually look at how it can be solved as quickly as possible, because it's reoccurring situation once too many. And once that situation comes up, which I don't think it has reached that stage, where actually, our sister organizations would down their tools, but it was very critical, that they have their say, and I think our intervention is yielding some kind of attention.
So the sense we get, in all of these conversations or interface between the government and agency is one that suggests that this is not going to go away anytime soon. 100 billion naira is a huge sum, but what would you tell us about how do you evaluate the response of government agencies who are involved in this interaction? Has it communicated sincerity? Has it communicated commitment to nip this in the bud in the long run?
Well, on the 16th of January, the federal government, under the leadership of Mr. President, took a giant step in consolidating all the stakeholders in the industry. And so we now have what is called Petroleum Industry Stakeholders Forum, which is headed by the Honorable Minister of Petroleum Oil, Senator Dr. Enikin Lupori. Great man, doing so much that he can in his time to ensure, that the industry is stable and there is growth. And most of all the difficulties that were experienced in the past will be taken away, because it's a Niger Delta son, and he knows exactly where it pinches. So he's doing the best he can. And under his leadership, I believe that matters like this will be expeditiously handled, because Nigeria and Nigerians and the leadership don't gain anything if there is disruption in the downstream industry, especially as it affects PMS. Because globally, we've come to see in Nigeria that PMS plays a critical role in growing our economy. So the government's response, I believe, is positive. I'm sure that they're going to quickly step into trying to nip this. And the NMDPRA is an enabler of business. They are not business killers. And to my knowledge, in the leadership that Engineer Farouk Ahmed has brought with his team, they have focused on how to grow the business of our business. Yes, we have our challenges that we ask them to look into, high costs of renewals and several other things. But at the end of the day, they pay attention to what is needed, to my knowledge. And that's why Petron has the confidence to approach them and say, look, this is going to be difficult. There'll be a lot of damage made, job losses, financial losses, Nigerians not being able to do the things they need to do. So such a request, I don't even consider it a threat, because if our sister organizations want to really do something that's going to be disastrous, they will take different action, not to give a 7-day notification.
All right. You from your comment, you talked about the petroleum sector as an enabler. And speaking to that context, yesterday, we rounded up yesterday with the news of one of our biggest refiners in the continent, announcing a further reduction in price, a trajectory that we have seen play out twice this month alone, and maybe 3 times since the beginning of this year. There had been, we sort of have noticed some level of calm, when it comes to pricing in Nigeria. Still very high, if you ask me, but we have dropped further from the 1,000 threshold, which felt like Nigerians being choked practically from oxygen. How would you describe some of these rebates that we have seen? Do they appear like something that is sustainable, or is it just to give us some kind of taste of honey, and while you are getting used to the sweetness, it is taken away?
Look, I'm a businessman, and I do know, that you cannot be in business if you are not making any profit to reinvest and then to grow that business. So first of all, we congratulate Dangote refineries and Alhaji Aliko Dangote himself. Such magnanimity from what he has said, it is to make sure that the economic programs of the president, Ahmed Bola Tinubu, is on course, and also to assuage any kind of financial challenges that Nigerians will have during the Ramadan festival that's coming. Now, I believe that Dangote refinery is not charity. So I mean, there's so much money involved in bringing up a refinery of that magnitude. So charity will not be the focus. Focus with business. But I believe that there will be a lot of economic environmental indices that would have also dictated how that can happen. Now, that's the only way sustainability can be guaranteed. But right now, it's a good time for Nigerians, and I think we should congratulate and thank the Dangote for this and enjoy it. But, I mean, from our point of view, well, we do our calculations every day as to what is likely going to happen in the industry, because the petroleum industry is full of a lot of greasy filling stations with over 16, 20, 26 pumps. And you ordinarily will feel that this is such a very lucrative business. I can tell you for free that we are practically serving the economic wheel, the growth wheel of Nigeria, very dedicatedly without making the requisite profit that is assumed. Okay.
Now that we are seeing major activities around the downstream.
Yes.
Port Harcourt is back on stream, may not be doing the volumes that we expect right now, because Port Harcourt 2, I think, the one with the larger capacity is still undergoing rehabilitation. Warri came on stream. I don't know if they've started doing petroleum yet, but as little as whatever they add to the dynamics, we are beginning to see movements that suggest that life is now returning to that sector. What's your projection for? I mean, you said Nigeria it's good times for Nigeria, but what do you see in the short to medium term with regards to all of these developments coming?
Well, I was just trying to round up that to tell you that Aliko Dangote has done Africa proud, done Nigeria proud, and done personally me proud, because I can hold my head up anywhere in the world and talk about Nigeria in a different perspective today. And the businesses that are in the downstream, they're all enablers. They're all enablers. And what is required is actually to be able to study the environment, know what exactly is going on. But I wanted to add, that only the forces of the market can determine what will be stable. Right now, the joy we have, and that's what Petrol has advocated for several years, was that there should be a massive, production of refined product in country, and we've gotten that now, because Dangote has, from what the statistics they reeled out yesterday, we can only depend on the messages we get from Dangote. They have over 600 and something million liters that are lying down there for us as retail outlet owners and marketers to pick and take to our retail outlets. So the petroleum energy availability that we canvass for is now here. NNPC is doing a great job, and yes, they are not up to where we expected them to be, but they are doing a great job. And we are lifting products every day. Even today now, we are lifting products from Port Harcourt, as I speak to you right now. So the fact that we have all of these refineries coming, Azikel refinery is coming up from Bayelsa.
And the Boa refinery?
Boa refinery is also coming up. Azikel might come up earlier. They've moved their capacity from 5,000 metric tons to, barrels per day to 25,000 barrels per day. That's a huge, investment that's going on there. And we believe that also will do quite a lot in serving the Niger Delta area very successfully. We have the Niger Delta refinery that has been there for a long time. We have Walter Smith that's operating out of Imo State. And we have a Edo refinery that's also coming. So there's quite a lot of in-country refining that makes us proud as Nigerians, that we do have a say in this industry.
With the kind of volumes that the Dangote refinery is announcing, and
yes.
they've also mentioned that any moment from now they will hit full refining capacity,
Yes.
haven't fully installed and tested the fluid catalyst cracker and all of that. Do you think there's still room for viability for all these other refineries that you mentioned?
There's a lot of room for that. I recall when I started my business as a downstream player in the early 90s, that there was quite a lot of exports being done. In fact, I was one of the major exporters of refined product from Nigeria. As those days, I used to have about 25,000 metric tons LPFO, HPFO, kerosene, and it was for all export. Some of the gentlemen who are working with us, I don't want to mention them, were there depending on us to give them product, but for some reason, the game changed. And, it looked like we now became dependent on imports. But now the situation will be different. As there is no reason. Cameroon is still importing product from us. Ghana, you saw Zimbabwe just coming to have a meeting with Dangote. So there's room for so much, benefit. And Nigeria being a hydrocarbon center, it's a very lucrative area to be a hub for all these, businesses and impact the whole globe. If we can be shipping product from here to Saudi Arabia already, to France, when you look at the export sheet of what the giant of refinery in Africa is doing, it gives you, hope. And there's no reason why the smaller refineries will not thrive, and they will thrive because there is quite a lot that can be done in terms of in-country consumption and also exports outside the country.
Nigerians would say, you talked about the centrality of energy to everything.
Yes.
Cost of food prices, price of foodstuffs because of the cost of transportation and all. And so we have seen these considerable reductions, but somehow there is a drag on the pass-through effect to some of the things that quickly adjusted when prices hit rooftops. We are not seeing the kind of downward adjustment that we need to start seeing, especially when it comes to cost of food prices, because this naturally should feed into cost of transportation. That should come down. We are not seeing reduction in etiquettes that hits the rooftop, because at some point there were complaints that beside price increases, they couldn't even get aviation fuel. Now we know Warri is doing aviation fuel, Port Harcourt is doing aviation fuel, Dangote is doing aviation fuel. Prices have, in fact, even announced.
Even Azika Refinery.
Yes, it's doing aviation fuel. So why are players in this industry finding it difficult to pass through some of these benefits that we have seen with price reductions when it comes to other sectors? What have you observed?
Well, for me, it's a twist, because I can only talk about the sector that I'm very familiar with. I don't sell food. I really intend to sell food because I think restaurant owners make more money than hospital outlets. So we need to think about how to diversify to that area. So I don't blame some of my members who are now setting up refineries. Restaurants in their retail outlets. First of all, let me say something. You see, when prices are reduced at the ex-depot price, it's a good thing to happen, but it cannot easily relate to the retail outlets. And why that is so is because if we had bought product, so assuming we bought 90,000 liters, and 90,000 liters we bought at 890 ex-depot, we pay all the extant prices, the taxes, and then we pay the logistics and land at our station. And we have done our calculations as to what margins we can have, because the PIA also gives a clear definition of what our pricing mechanism should be. So once we get that done, you can only expect as a businessman that you must evacuate what you have stocked before you can buy new ones. And it's the new ones that will now impact on those prices. And then, of course, we'll expect that taxi drivers, bus drivers, farmers, barbers, medical personnel that are depending on our retail outlets to be able to fast track the energy provision of their different businesses should also impact those. But I don't see it, because when I still go to restaurants and they're telling us that food, a plate of food will cost about 11,000 naira. So you are wondering if we are we're making minimum salaries at the price at which we are. That would be just 7 meals or even less. So how are you going to manage for the rest of the 31 days? So those are the things that I think that the local government administration, the state government administration, and the ministers that are also in charge of most of all these things should ask, especially Ministry of Trade.
All right. You operate largely out of the Niger Delta, as a Niger Delta son yourself.
Yes.
This is slightly away from the downstreams. We've seen improvements in crude production numbers. The numbers have gone up and have been celebrated by government agencies, with the projections that we would even be hitting the 2.2 million mark, which is something the budget planners have envisaged with regards to improving our revenues. What would you say has been largely responsible for this? I mean, the government talked about improve the security situation around the Delta, but what has been your observation, and what can we do to sustain whatever it is that has helped us to ramp up these numbers? Because we know how critical, as the government people will say, revenues from petroleum will do to drive the non-oil sectors and all the other developmental projects that we have lined up as a country.
Well, first, let me tell you, as a Niger Delta son, I'm very proud. I'm an German, and it gives me quite a lot of joy to talk about what I want to say now. Now, when leaders get saddled with responsibility, I believe their passion, their courage, their determination, and their knowledge of that environment, that business, gives rise to very effective performance. So when you have a President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, assembling what I call the magic team of Benga Kumulafe, Engineer Mele Kyari, and Senator Enekin Lupobiri, and the Minister of Gas working together, you can tell that there will be changes, and that's what has happened. So I call it the magic of those who are passionate about growing Nigeria. Because what Minister Lupobiri has done with his team is what could have been done a long time ago. Simple understanding of the environment and impacting it with decisive actions. So our prayer is that, and if you had listened to some of the interventions that I personally have made, I have really called that we should even think out of the box on how to produce far much more than the OPEC quota, so that we can have what I would call domestic intervention crude oil. So from where we can easily serve the need of the local refineries, so that we can indeed be naira for naira and price our products in naira, because that, I believe that the economic eggheads of the president will work something out. But I mean, in other areas, I've said that I have some very strong confidence that I don't know where it's coming from. Not that I have any empirical evidence or compute it, but I have such a very strong confidence that the Bola Ahmed Tinubu-led government will bring Nigeria to the point of where we are going to start changing. Because I've always believed, knowing that I've traveled and I do business in several climes in this world, so I have not seen anywhere in the world that has the kind of potential that Nigerians have. I have not. When you talk about the manpower, which is the most critical, Nigerians are intelligent, they are go-getters, they are brave, they are courageous, and they are determined for anything that they want to do. Look at what our girls are doing with fashion. Look at what our children are doing with music. And I predicted in 1978, as an 18-year-old boy, because I'm a dramatist, I was a writer, I was telling Mr. Adeloye Odibia that Nigeria will lead in the arts and change the focus of this country. That was 18 years old. Today I'm 65, and I'm saying that this government will bring about a change that will sustain Nigeria as a world power. Because I know that this country is a world power in all ramifications. And there is nothing that should deter us from that. So these are beginning days. I know the country is difficult. Every one of us are finding it difficult, to move from one place to the other is difficult. But it's difficult times that's going to take us to the times where the real good times will be. And I believe that as Nigerians, if we are patient, like I told you earlier, I believe in looking for solutions. That's why I'm peaceful.
All right.
That's why I'm quiet.
Talking about looking for solutions, one of the issues we urgently also need to take care of are issues of host communities, whether it is in terms of environmental remediations, as we have seen with the Ogoni issue that has persisted for only God knows how long. The cleanups have been slow, and that is impacting conversations around divestments from those areas, because you are committed to the environment. People live there. You can't extract resource and leave the environment in a state that makes it impossible for habitations. As a son of the soil, what is your assessment of how some of these remediations have fared, and issues bordering on host communities as provided for by the PIA? How do you think implementations are coming up?
When you look at the PIA, you look at the volume of the book. For me, I think that is the first problem we need to solve. We need to start being brief and specific into solutions that must take us from point A to point Z. We can't be writing such volumes of paper and expect that those who are going to implement them will have the patience and the knowledge and the understanding. So the first, English is not our language. I have my own, I'm a Calabar and a German that speak Calabari language. So I will not even understand so much of the English, even though I've been to all kinds of schools and all that. I will still find it difficult to understand it. Now, we need to reduce the size of our legislations. That's number one. Number two, there is nothing difficult to really clean up, for instance, the Ogoni area. And thank God the president in his wisdom has approved for an environmental university for that part of the world. We need to quickly start into action and get into action and look for simple, straightforward solutions or remediation. And there are so many of them everywhere in the world. So it is not rocket science. We don't need to look for any, and for crying out loud, if Shell is leaving, let them leave. Look, I really feel that we need to run our affair by ourselves as a country. We have enough knowledge. We have young boys that are CEOs of oil companies in Texas that are of Nigerian extraction, and they are doing very well in their business. So, what is difficult? To bring them to work and let them know that these are the opportunities. What are we looking for? We are looking to maximize our hydrocarbon deposits that God gracefully gave to us. We have minerals. We have different kinds of things that can make this country to become the country to look up to in the future. And we can do it. And I believe that we can do it. So let me finish. Now, my thinking is that solutions should lie on simplifying the process, not to make it complex. For instance, I don't see how the President Muhammad Buhari led government was hailed by setting up the high prep. And nothing really seriously has happened to Ogoni land. And look at the size of hydrocarbon that is there, that could have changed the lives of the people there, the lives of River State, the lives of Niger Delta, the lives of Nigerians. So we need to start looking at things from a brief and a point of brevity to be able to solve them. There is no rocket science to that. That's my solution.
All right, there's no rocket science to the problem of the Delta, the cleaning up of the environment, and all that we need to do to move this country forward. These have been the submissions of our guest this morning. Always a pleasure to have you in the studio, Dr. Gillis-Harry, the National President of PETROAN. It's a pleasure to have you join us.
Thank you. My name again is Sotubo Billy Gillis-Harry.
Interesting that you have to hear that directly from him. I won't attempt to repeat
and
those names.
I have a Nigerian name, Sotubo. It's so very important to me, that I'm known by that name.
Yes, I'm happy that we are identifying with our Nigerianness, be it Kalabari, Igbo, Yoruba, or Hausa. It's always a pleasure to have Dr. Gilly in the studio with us, and I wish you all of the best. I know the Nigeria International Energy Summit is ongoing, and you're also participating in Summit. Yes. So we will not continue to keep him in the studio, but we'll always have the opportunity to catch him back in the studio whenever opportunity affords us. It's a pleasure always to have you join us.
Thank you so much.
All right, we'll take a quick breather. When we return, it will be time for the stories that made it to select national newspapers this morning. Please don't go away.